Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, where I have my weekly interview show where I have somebody come on and we learn a little bit more about their perspective on movies. And this week, I have my friend Robert from SiftPop on here for a second time, so he joins the second round club.
Oh,
Thanks for coming
yes.
on, Robert.
Thanks for having me back on. It's always been a pleasure being on.
Yep, and it's that point in the show where Robert gets to shamelessly plug whatever he would like to shamelessly plug.
Oh, I think last time I came on, we were talking about Inside Llewyn Davis. I was about to start my YouTube channel. I'm about 6 or 7 videos in now, so look that up, Robert's Thoughts. And you can just follow me on Twitter at _ Rob's Thoughts.
And I might be biased, but they're very quality videos and I like them a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you very much.
So go check out Robert's YouTube channel and you're gonna be talking a lot more about baseball too, which is
Oh, yeah.
interesting as we were talking before we started here. All of you baseball fans out there. Hopefully all of you are having a better season than I am, which literally, unless you're a Diamondbacks fan,
Unless,
that has to mathematically be happening.
yep.
So there you go. But this week we're going to be taking on a whole new set of questions. So getting things started, Robert, what is a previously released film that you have never seen that you're most excited to check out?
So for all of these, I wrote down like a bunch of examples. Do you want me to choose just one, or do you want me to go and run with
I
it?
make the rules here, so
Yeah.
you could give as many as you want.
All right. Well, I don't have like I felt like I needed some big movies that I've been wanting to see, but
Uh-huh.
um I just kind of glanced at my letterbox watch list, which isn't too long because I had just started using it like last week, that function.
Fair.
Um but Cloud Atlas is one that I'm interested in. Once Upon a Time in America. I
Around here.
yeah. Once Upon a Time in America. I want to see like the full circle of the gangster genre.
Like the
Um
full, like actual 4 hour version that
yeah,
Ennio Morricone made and was like, hey, America doesn't want to watch a 4 hour gangster movie. Let's make it 2 hours and put it linear because that's what they did to his movie.
I'd watch it however, whatever the real way is. That's what I want to see.
Hey, I sat through The Irishman in theaters, so
Oh, me too. Me
so
too.
there you go.
I also wrote down Network. That one just seems like it's up my alley. It's just, I'm always waiting for it to hop on some streaming service, but I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't think it is
yeah.
presently. It's funny because I'm like, is it on a streaming service? Would I know that? I'm like, it's like right next to my head here.
Yeah,
That's the benefit of like owning an absurd amount of movies,
for
which
sure.
I know I spent an absurd amount of money on the Criterion sale this year, which
Yeah.
I generally don't. I don't wind up buying a whole lot during those sales. And I'm like, I taught an extra class this summer, and I'm like, here we go. And it went all in. But Cloud Atlas is such a strange film. And it's a fantastic book that I've heard. I'm actually looking at it. It's on the
Yeah.
pile of books that I haven't read yet that's sitting over in my room. But it is a bold choice to try to make that story work because it's literally 6 different stories.
Hmm.
And I remember seeing pictures from the set for like, I would even say like 2 years before it actually released because I started seeing pictures of Hugo Weaving as like the creepy strange like futuristic demon guy with the big
Hmm.
nose and the like Mad Hatter hat and everything. I'm like, what the hell is this? And it's just one of 6 stories in that film. And of course, it's the Wachowski siblings, and it's just like they've made
This
some great
tracks.
things. They've also made some very strange things. And I guess if you talk to John from SiftPop, he'll tell you Speed Racer is the most amazing film. So they have a lot of fans, and I like Cloud Atlas. I appreciate the ambition of it. I would not say it's a great film. There's a lot of issues. I didn't think I needed to see a whole bunch of people of different races playing other people of different races, but they're just like, let's just have one cast do all of the stories.
Hmm.
I didn't think I would ever see Halle Berry playing a white woman or an Asian man,
Yeah.
but you do. when you
It
watch
just
Flat
seems
Out.
so interesting to me. I've just seen a bunch of stills and heard about it with the Wachowskis for years. Um, and with the cast, I'm just like very intrigued.
One of the things I appreciate most about it is seeing one, Tom Hanks play some villainous roles
Hmm.
because he plays a whole bunch of people in it. And also seeing Hugo Weaving basically playing Nurse Ratched
Oh
in a
my.
nursing home.
Oh my.
Yeah. And like as an actual woman.
Hmm.
So, yes, it's a very strange film. Probably the strangest was seeing Keith David playing an Asian man. I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
but it's an interesting ride. And then I'll recommend anything Sergio Leone does. So Once Upon a Time in America, must see. And like
Yeah.
long before The Irishman was like, I'll make 4 hours a gangster movie. You got Once Upon a Time in America. Now, Robert, it's such a strange time for being a film fan. Like films are actually coming out now that it's supposed to come out for like some of these films. I'm like hyped for like 2 years since a trailer had dropped for them.
Yeah.
So, out of all the films that are upcoming that you know that's coming out, what's the film that you want to see the most?
The one that I want to see the most, this might be an out of the box answer, but I think out of everything, I'm most excited and intrigued by The Last Duel, the Ridley Scott movie
Nice.
written by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck with Adam Driver also.
Mhm.
I love all of, or not love, but I always like slash love watching Ridley Scott's like medievals or sword and sandal movies. Um, even his Robin Hood movie I enjoy watching, even though it's not great.
Russell Crowe.
Yeah. So that the combination of him along with Damon and Affleck coming back together, I just can't wait to see what the heck this is going to be.
What's really interesting is, if I'm not mistaken, Ridley Scott's like directorial debut was called The Duelist.
Hmm.
And I'm guessing pretty similar kind of feel to this film. I think that had Harvey Keitel in it, if I'm not mistaken. But when I saw the set photos of this and Matt Damon and Ben Affleck dressed up like in costume, I'm like,
They just look very absurd. Like the
yes.
goatee that Matt Damon has.
It felt like one of those random Matt Damon cameos that
Yeah.
Matt Damon randomly makes in movies, which, if you want to see the most unexpected of Matt Damon cameos, obviously watch Soderbergh films, because it's like he's actually been in so many of them. And then you'll just be sitting and watching one of his movies and be like, and in his films, they're not hiding it. Like he's
Right.
very obviously Matt Damon, unlike what was it, Deadpool 2 that he
Was he in
popped.
Deadpool 2? He was in Thor, the third Thor movie.
Yep.
He played
And
like the actor version of Loki.
I think he's one of the like rednecks
Oh, you know
that,
what? You're right. Yeah.
yeah, that, and he like has a fat suit on, he has a
Hmm.
fake nose that like Cable sees when he goes back to the past. I'm just like, why? And
I
then
forgot
Brad
about
Pitt
that.
too.
Yeah, Brad Pitt's in there for half a second.
For half a second. Oh man. But I'm a big, so like, I don't love all of Ridley Scott's films,
Hmm.
but if Ridley Scott has a film coming out, I'm at least excited to see it,
Right.
because there's a potential for it to be great.
Hmm.
Like The Martian blew me out. Like I had no expectations for that movie, and boy, did Matt Damon science the shit out of that movie.
Yes.
So, and because Ridley Scott has two films coming out soon.
Yeah, I also wrote down he has the House of Gucci with
Yep.
Adam Driver also and Lady Gaga.
Yeah. So Ridley Scott might be having a big year for himself.
And he's like
And
90, almost 90.
he's still going.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Well, this isn't the funny part, but Richard Donner just passed away, who's literally 91 years old, and apparently was working on Lethal Weapon 5, like
Oh, really?
actively working on Lethal Weapon 5.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, I don't know if that's not going to happen now, because he's literally directed all 4 other ones.
Hmm.
So I don't know if they're going to pull, like, if they get James Mangold
I was
to
about to
also
say.
do Lethal Weapon 5, along with Indiana Jones 5, I might be interested. Except if that movie gets done, because Harrison Ford just turned 79 and got hurt on set.
Yeah. And they're taking a hiatus, like months long, I think.
Yeah. But there's such a backlog of films. There's so many things to be excited about the rest of this year, and so many interesting things. Like, I got excited because like French Dispatch reviews just started dropping because of Cannes yesterday. And I'm like, come on, October.
And PTA has a new movie coming out
that nobody knows a single thing about.
Right.
And that was the same thing for Phantom Thread. That like came out and like it was like Paul Thomas Anderson and Daniel Day-Lewis doing a movie together. I'm like, but what is it? And it came like the trailer dropped like a couple months before it came out. It's just like, and I saw it. I'm like, this is one of the most disturbing romances I've ever seen in a movie, but I loved it.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't the biggest fan of Phantom Thread, but I am always interested to see what PTA will do.
That like, I was just like, Daniel Day-Lewis is one of the greatest actors ever when he could say 1,000 words with a glance when somebody's buttering their toast too loud.
Yeah.
Like, it's that kind of movie. So, like, it's that kind of movie. Now, what is a film that you wish would get remade?
This is a difficult one because I don't want to see remakes of any of the movies that I wrote down. But if there were to be remakes, I would like to see how I have 4. I'd like to see how these would be made in modern day with like advancements in, culture and technology. So one would be Rope, the Hitchcock classic.
Interesting.
The one that he himself didn't actually like.
Yeah. So I remember listening to the podcast of you and Aaron talking about recasting it. So
that's probably why I'm thinking that one.
Yep. Gotta make it then.
Also Arsenic and Old Lace, which is also from that podcast.
Okay. Yep.
It'd just be fun to see that one again. This one, The Seventh Seal, I'd just like to see how that would be made in a more modernized I don't know, just like a crisper picture. I'd just like to see how it would look visually instead of like the 50s black and white.
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
And like, just imagining like the textured look of what Dune looks like, except with death and a crusading knight.
Yeah. And then the last one, this is actually the only one I think would work as a good remake. And that's the Harrison Ford movie Witness. I don't think Witness goes into the themes that it could. I think it focuses a little bit too much on being an action movie. So I'd like to see a little bit less action and a little bit more thematic exploration.
That's an interesting choice too, because I've only seen it once and I haven't seen it in a while, but that's a Peter Weir film too, which I'm a huge fan of his. Well, I was doing my podcast and he made my list of underappreciated directors because he low-key like made Dead Poets Society, The Truman Show, Master and Commander, and like Witness and stuff like that. And it's interesting because it's one of those kinds of films where it's like you get dropped into a society that most people don't really understand very well. And it's interesting too, so like I've been to Lancaster quite a few times at this point. It's like growing up in New Jersey, and
I actually used to live there.
There you go. And it's a very interesting thing to try to take on. And like, I appreciate the fact that like thinking about, because like there's so much to unpack there from just like a cultural standpoint. And it's such a wonder of a thing because it's like concept versus plot. Because like you could have like an amazing concept and then waste it on like a stupid love story that doesn't work. And like something like that where it's like you have so much you can unpack culturally and then you spend most of it on an action movie.
Right.
Kind
of
thing.
Like, it's more of a crime drama with the love story than like what you were just saying, the stuff about the Amish culture and seeing what that would be like for someone all of a sudden living there. That's not really what it does.
Yeah, because like I think of the movie Titanic. The concept is the sinking of the Titanic. What the
Hmm.
actual plot is a love story between a rich girl and a peasant guy. And like I feel like that's where people that don't like Titanic probably get lost, is the fact that like you're just watching this love story the whole entire time.
That's me.
Yeah. But like if you really look at it, like James Cameron's direction of like the actual like sinking and all that stuff is incredible,
Oh yeah.
because there's very few directors that can direct big budget action and like big effects driven things in James Cameron. And like that's one of my biggest issues with Avatar. It's like you had such an amazing world here and you wasted it on like, let's redo Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas, The Last Samurai, the same story we've heard over and over and over again. Just plop it with big blue aliens.
Hmm.
But I'm interested to see what they do with the 4 sequels when they
If they come out.
come out eventually.
When were they originally supposed to come out? Like 2015 or 16, I think.
I think so. I would even bet money, like a small amount of money, that they don't even hit the date that they have right now.
Oh no, I doubt it.
They've already been moved so many times. And like honestly, I don't even know if it'd be advantageous for Disney to release them at the date now, because they have so much backlog stuff anyway.
It's true.
But oh god, to even think about that, that's a Disney movie now.
Yeah.
So much money.
They have Avatar World at Disney World, I think.
Literally, the only like people talk about like they bought it for the X-Men. No, they didn't. They didn't buy Fox for that. They bought it for Avatar so they can make Pandora World at one of their amusement parks and hopefully
Yep.
make 4 other like $2 billion movies. So there you go. Now, Robert, what is your fondest memory of going to the movies? I got called out on like you asked the same question last time. I'm like, it's a different question. The first one was what's your earliest memory? So what's that time like your movie experience that you remember the fondest?
I would probably have to say seeing The Force Awakens on opening night. Um, I think that was the only time since Disney bought Star Wars that everyone has been in agreement. Like the
Yes.
majority of people have been in agreement that like this is back. We all love this. And the 6 years since then, it's like I don't even want to talk about Star Wars or even think about it. But that night was like very pure and very just like full of excitement with all my friends, and I saw it with my brother. You know, it was just a lot of fun seeing that. I honestly don't have a ton of great theater experiences because normally people are just annoying.
Because people suck.
Yeah, yes. But that one was great. It was like being in a church almost with just like the reverence for let's pay attention to this movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat that I'm hesitant to talk about Star Wars with people.
Yeah,
Because, like, you know who really ruined Star Wars?
the fans.
It's just like, you gotta calm down and stop being so angry, which was really interesting because I thought everybody loved Force Awakens. And then leading into Last Jedi, I think I started spending more time on the internet.
Yeah, there's your first mistake.
Yes, there you go. And everyone like, it's just a New Hope all over again. I'm like, yeah, but like, it was really well done and a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Last Jedi happened, and everybody's like, we wanted something different, but not this. And you ruined my childhood. I'm like, no, you didn't. Like, you could just watch the original Star Wars, and if you really don't like Last Jedi, just leave it alone. But to stop talking about that, back to the actual theater experience, one of my fondest memories is also seeing Force Awakens.
Oh, yeah?
I think I saw it with like 12 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I came from work, and like I was like dressed up in like pre-COVID life. I'd wear vests and stuff like that to work, and like I was dressed up for work. And I show up to go see Star Wars like that, and my brother shows up dressed up head to toe as Kylo Ren. minus the mask because they wouldn't let him wear it.
Oh.
And he had to go to the bathroom. So he handed me his like replica $300 crossguard lightsaber, and I'm standing there in a 3-piece suit with his lightsaber, like classy Jedi here. And some of the highlights of that night. So my brother has some anger problems. He breaks things when he's frustrated. Many of game controllers have died entering his room. And the second that Kylo Ren started like that panel, I'm like,
it was perfect.
I looked at him and our best friend John looked at him and he's just saying like, yeah, just like, yeah, that's you 100%. And then afterwards he got in a photo shoot in the middle of AMC with Obi-Wan and Anakin. So like they were posing and everything because like my brother's like a cosplayer, goes to conventions and stuff like that, and he was going all out. And then the cherry on top was there was almost a fight in the parking lot. People were honking, getting out of their cars, like smacking each other's windows and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my! And
oh my gosh!
Yeah, that was a
Were
very
lightsabers used?
Nope.
It was all real life fights.
They weren't real fans. So, because if they were, they would have started a lightsaber duel in the middle of the parking lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how we solve our problems. But it's so interesting because, like, I remember seeing Rogue One with a big group of people too, and that wasn't a great night for me because I was having some digestive problems, and I held it in for like the good last hour of the movie. And I'm like, oh no. But the second Darth Vader showed up, everybody lost their shit in the middle of that theater. Because understandably, because like, when did we really get to see that Darth Vader in a movie? Never. And then by the time Rise of Skywalker came out, I literally only saw it with my girlfriend and left him just like, well, that was a movie.
And that's when Star Wars was officially...
Like, I still really enjoy The Mandalorian a lot. And I'll watch the shows, like Book of Boba Fett's supposed to be the next one, from what I understand, like watching Bad Batch, which honestly is really just a sequel to Clone Wars, the animated show. So if you like Clone Wars, but Star Wars, it's an interesting thing. But now, Robert, what is a film that really exceeded your expectations? Like you thought this was going to be bad or thought nothing of it, and you're just like, wow, this was a great movie.
So a lot of the times it'll just be movies that I don't have any knowledge of it going into. Just like, oh, I've heard this title and that it's supposed to be good. Let me watch it. So a few of those would be the Before trilogy, and then In Bruges, Calvary, which I talked about on my channel. One from a couple years ago, Waves, Trey Edward Schultz movie. I really love that one.
I got an early screening at AMC for that and went in with no expectations and left being like, oh God.
Yep.
Like, it's that kind of movie.
Yep. I remember I was stuck in bad traffic on the way home, and I was just like not really too upset because I just wanted to sit and think about the movie. And then the only one that was just like I had bad expectations going in, and then it blew me away. Sorry to keep bringing up controversial topics, but I really love Man of Steel, and I thought the trailer was terrible, and I wasn't interested in it at all. But I loved it when I saw it, and I've loved it ever since.
That's one of those kinds of movies that has grown on me.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is where expectations can kill you. Because obviously, so like I grew up watching Superman, the movie, the Donner cut of Superman 2, and the Donner cut long before Zack Snyder got a cut of his movie. And God, I've seen Superman 3 and 4 more than once. So I think that says a lot of my experience with Superman movies. And I saw Man of Steel, I'm like, that was different.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people had that kind of feeling because, like, it felt like a Zack Snyder movie and not like Christopher Reeve's hopeful Superman. And now every time I watch it, I love it even more.
Yeah.
And like I've gotten past that point. Like from the start, I've been a huge fan of Michael Shannon's Zod. Like, where'd you train, Kal-El? On a farm? And
That was a good Michael Shannon.
and oh, he's just one of the most intense actors. Like,
Oh yeah.
so intense.
I feel like I would be intimidated just talking to him about like the weather.
Yeah. Which was so funny because I don't know if you've ever seen The Night Before, but when
Is that a movie or the show? There's the night of and the night before.
Rogen.
I always mix them up.
So The Night Before has Seth Rogen,
Okay, I haven't seen that one.
and Anthony Mackie in it. And Michael Shannon is a weed dealer.
Hmm.
And he's just super chill. And I'm like, wait, what? This makes no sense to me. I can't compute this. But like Henry Cavill embodies, like, he looks like Superman.
Mhm.
And he really fits it. And I have very different feelings about Batman v Superman and like things to come after. But like,
Sure.
I would watch a whole entire movie of the Krypton that they showed in that.
I know.
Russell Crowe, 100% down for him fighting with Michael Shannon. I want that movie.
Yeah.
WB, make that movie.
A Man of Steel prequel.
They do it and they just say multiverse.
Yeah.
Because honestly, they don't. I don't think they even have a plan anymore. I think they're just like, we're gonna make whatever.
That's why I'm like, this is just another controversial topic, but I really like this one movie.
But yeah, so Man of Steel, I think really works, and I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
Even like Lawrence Fishburne popping up ever so often as Perry White. Lawrence Fishburne's great. And Christopher Maloney, even just like as some military dude, and like Amy Adams. Amy Adams, great. Now, I don't know how much of like a reader you are, Robert, but if there's any written work that you would want to adapt into a film, what would it be?
So this is a tough-ish question because I pretty much only read like mainstream stuff and I don't read very often.
Uh-huh.
But there was this one fantasy series I was into when I was a kid / teenager called Ranger's Apprentice. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yes.
It's just like medieval fantasy, and it scratched my Lord of the Rings itch as a kid. And there's like 15 books or something like that.
Why haven't they made it into a movie?
I know Paul Haggis, the director of Crash, supposedly he was supposed to start making it like 10 years ago, like 5 or 10 years ago at least, and then it's like, just been delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. Exactly. So I'd like to see it someday. I'll probably have outgrown it by the time it comes out, but hey, it's what I've wanted since I was like in middle school.
I feel like any fantasy series has to have been made or gone into production at some point in any shape or form at any time in history.
Yeah.
Because it's like we're already getting a second rendition of Percy Jackson, which was like, those were books I read a lot as a kid. And
Narnia. They're doing Narnia again. Yeah.
Yep. So I think I'm one of the 10 people who saw Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Because they made a third Narnia movie. Like Prince Caspian wasn't the last one.
I only ever saw the first.
So I saw Chronicles of Narnia, Lions with the Wardrobe in middle school for school. They took us for like a movie trip. So like I watched that movie so many times as a kid. But like there's one series that it's called Gregor the Overlander. And it's actually from Susan Collins, who wrote Hunger Games before she wrote Hunger Games. And this was a series that I always loved. I'm shocked that never got turned into something. But you know what? After Artemis Fowl, I'm just kind of like, be a little choosy on some of these things that you're going to make. Because look how that turned out. Well, we'll see. But that would be interesting to have that turned into a thing because like they've ruined a lot. Like I was literally having this conversation on a previous episode about Aragon
Hmm. Yeah, people weren't happy with that one.
Nope.
I've been told to stay away from that movie, and I have.
I used to own it. So like middle school, high school Shane was a very different Shane back then.
Interesting.
That Shane watched movies like Paul Blart Mall Cop and Delta Farce and owned a lot of these movies that we're talking about. And like some of my favorite movies were League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and Van Helsing. And like I
Hmm.
watch them now, I'm just like potential, but there's some issues with these movies.
But when you're younger, you don't see those things, and it's just there's nothing wrong with liking them. I still like Mall Cop, to be honest.
It's funny because I was a fat kid.
Hmm.
I was obese from second grade all the way up until I started losing a lot of weight my freshman year of college.
Hmm.
I connected with Paul Blart a lot. And I watched King of Queens like every day I came home from school. So like Kevin James was like my shit then.
Right, he was already your thing.
So I'm just like I watch Paul Blart Mall Cop all the time. Dude playing Kiss on like the Guitar Hero machine.
Yeah.
Or it might have been Rock Band, whatever. But besides the point. But I had never seen the second one, but I watched
Yeah,
the
me
first
either.
one a lot. But that's a tricky thing about adapting YA fantasy novels is
Yeah,
so much could go wrong. Fantasy's really hard in general to make work.
it's
And
true.
that's why Lord of the Rings is so great. I
Yeah,
know we
yeah,
can agree on that.
of course, always.
Now, Robert, what's your favorite movie trailer?
I don't watch a ton of movie trailers, to be honest. Other than like for the big stuff,
Yeah.
just because, you know, if I see a director and or a cast or a premise that I'm interested in, then there's a good chance I'll see
It's
it.
like, I'm in.
Yeah, and I see so much anyway that I don't really need to watch trailers.
Yeah.
Um, but the two I will say are again Star Wars. I if they were on the VHS tapes, I would have worn out the tapes for episode 7 and episode 9. Um, Obviously they're not, but episode 9, for as bad as that movie is, in my opinion, I think it had a great final trailer.
Mhm.
That one where like the hook was C3PO saying, taking one last look at my friends, and then like that epic version of the opening theme.
Wow, I'm getting a little bit of goosebumps right now, even just thinking about it.
Yeah, it was a great trailer. And then I was like, man, I was let down by that movie. But the same thing, I watched that trailer over and over in the episode 7 trailer, the final one. Um, yeah,
I remember the first Force Awakens trailer. It's like, there's been
that
an
one's
awakening. And just being like, and then like it's panning and panning, and then like Finn's head pops up out of nowhere, and you're just like, wait, what?
what is going on?
And then of course, like the Millennium Falcon, and just like,
And then the Kylo Ren at the end.
yeah, that's oh,
You know, that trailer released, I think, on Thanksgiving or over Thanksgiving weekend. I have a huge extended family, and we were all
uh,
together for Thanksgiving that year. And I was going around showing everyone on my phone like that trailer, and some people were like, "This isn't real. This can't be it." And just like we started realizing this was actual trailer, and then like the hype started building right then. It was a
that's a
lot of
tricky
fun.
thing looking for trailers. I'm like, is this a real trailer?
Yeah,
I would know if this was a real trailer. um, and it's interesting that you brought up like you don't watch a whole lot of trailers. It's like pre-COVID, I
hmm,
went to the movies 4 or 5 times a week. So
yeah,
like I would literally watch the same trailers over and over again. And
yeah.
you know it's a good trailer when you don't want to beat your head into the floor when you've seen it 10 times. And like I just remember like the favorite trailer.
I was about to bring up that example. Yeah.
Like that one, I'm like, I dug it every time that trailer popped on, like the
Hmm.
strings going on. I'm like, yes, I never get old of this. I never got old of that Ford v Ferrari trailer with Highway Tune in it from Greta Van Fleet. I'm just like, yes.
Yeah.
And like sometimes the music can just do that for you for a trailer. And then some are just like, God, when's this movie come out? Do I only have like 2 more weeks of dealing with the stupid trailer?
Free guy.
Um, and it's funny, once COVID happened, I stopped watching trailers.
Mhm.
And you know me, I'll watch literally anything. So I don't need a trailer. So just go in and like I watched a movie earlier today. I didn't even look up what the premise was.
Just looked
Just
at the
went in.
title.
Just went in. I'm like, I'm gonna watch this anyway. So and it was interesting because this movie went some places. I'm just like, I wonder if reading the synopsis would have made this less interesting.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, like especially in a world where the internet's a thing and you could watch a trailer, like there's special moments. Like there's certain trailers that like I'll watch immediately online, and there's certain ones that I won't. And there's some that I'm glad that they don't launch online. Because the second that I saw Syncope pop up on screen, and then it was the Tenant trailer, I'm just like, obviously I know what Syncope means.
Right.
And I'm like, I know I'm about to get the Tenet trailer, and it blew me away. And like the same thing for Dunkirk and Interstellar. I'm like, when you watch too many movies when
you know like what a production company means.
Yeah, a production company pops up. I'm like even just seeing that little bird scot-free, you don't even need to put the scot-free on anymore. I'm like, oh, this is a Ridley Scott movie, or he produced it, just throw his name on it somewhere, kind of thing. But trailers are interesting because they can ruin it for you too. Just look at any A24 movie ever. Don't watch their trailers. Well, except for maybe The Green Knight, because I love that trailer, and that movie better be good.
See, that's one that I've seen a bunch of times now since I started going back to the theater, and I'm watching it every time. Just like 1 year hence, and I'm like, oh yes.
Well, when A24 started doing 1 month on Twitter, I'm like, yes, it's only a couple of weeks away. And because like I remember seeing the first trailer like a year and a half
ago.
And that hand coming over that mountain, I'm just like, what? Because like this is an A24 movie. How big of a budget can this have? To be perfectly honest, they don't really have big budgeted movies. And this one looks like an interestingly large budgeted like movie. And I'm just like, are they like putting all their profits from all their movies into this one movie?
Hopefully. And Dev Patel looks awesome. Like his costuming and just like the makeup and hair of it all. I can't wait.
That shot of him like lighting on fire. And just like, what's going on here? I want to watch this so bad. Shifting gears a little bit into, I mentioned music for trailers before, but what is your favorite use of a song in a movie?
So I'll give you three in three different categories. One is just like the fun version of it, and that's Pocket Full of Sunshine and Easy A. When she has the birthday card and she keeps playing it over and over, there's like the Ferris Bueller montage of her in the shower singing it. There's like the emotional, and that's Wiz Khalifa's the Wiz Khalifa Charlie Puth song at the end of Fast and Furious 7 with the Paul Walker montage, which is extremely emotional. Who would have thought Wiz Khalifa would make you cry?
Is it Fast 7 or Furious 7?
I think it's Furious. It doesn't matter.
I haven't seen the 7th one.
You haven't seen the 7th one?
So here's a little bit of perspective on my history of the Fast and the Furious. So my brother's a huge fan.
Yeah.
So I watched Too Fast, Too Furious and Tokyo Drift more times than I could count back in like high school. So I've seen them plenty of times. I didn't even see the first one. But like Vin Diesel being in Fast and Furious didn't exist to me until like he randomly popped up at the end of Tokyo Drift. I'm like, what's this?
Right.
And then I didn't see a single one until Fate of the Furious when I started like reviewing everything. And I'm like, I feel like this is too big of a movie for me to miss out on. And like, I'm sitting and watching this movie. I'm like, wow, I'm confused. Who's this person? Where'd this person come from? Because like, I didn't realize like Fast and Furious was like an MCU level interlocked universe of like ridiculous amount of characters.
Oh yeah.
And I remember leaving that movie just being like, I really liked Hobbs and Shaw. I would totally just watch a movie with Hobbs and Shaw in it.
And then, hey.
And then it happened, and I'm just like, and I took my mom to go see it because my mom loves Jason Statham. My mom loves action movies, and she loves bald men apparently because she loves Jason Statham and Bruce Willis. And I remember seeing Hobbs and Shaw. I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted out of this. This is so absurd. And then, of course, I saw F9, and I'm just like, how many sharks did they jump in this?
If you're not a fan, it's just a lot. But I like the movies.
I just assumed they were going to jump a literal shark at some point, because then at least I would have laughed hysterically in the theater if they actually did that. But no, so I have no emotional connection to these movies, but I understand like all the memes of like when real men cry and like just a picture of Paul Walker. And like I could understand that and being like a really emotional scene. And I've never actually watched this scene because I'm like, I did wind up putting them all on my watch list. So I think I'm actually going to watch them. So
5 through 7 are really good, I think.
I heard the fourth one's really bad.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even remember that one, to be completely frank. But my last example of like the actual best use of a song, in my opinion, or my favorite use of a song, is a twofer in Magnolia, and that's the opening credits. The One Is the Loneliest Number, as it's like number, as it's showing every character doing their thing.
Yep.
And then at the end, it's again every character doing their thing, but it's Wise Up when they're all just like at their crisis point, and the whole thing's wrapping up. That's my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
That is a fascinating film.
Yeah,
fascinating.
I love it. Yeah, it's fascinating, but it's great.
Well, and it's so interesting because it's either he really knows how to use songs in his films, or he has killer scores in his films. Because like once Johnny Greenwood started doing the scores for his movies, it's like There Will Be Blood. There's something ethereal and just unnerving about the score in that movie.
Yeah.
But like between Boogie Nights and Magnolia, the use of music is like off the charts. Like I never thought I'd feel tense listening to Sister Christian, but like that is one of the strangest scenes I think in a movie ever. And kudos to Alfred Molina, who's like coked out as hell, just doing crazy things. But Magnolia is great. And if anybody out there tries to argue Tom Cruise is not a good actor, like
just go watch Magnolia.
Yep. There you go. And yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson really knows how to use music. And I'm a huge fan of music. Like I listen to scores all the time. I love listening to music. So I'm very interested in asking this question to a lot of people. So I appreciate your answers. And we're going to segue into the next question, which is about scores. So I framed it like, you can answer it however you would like, but I framed it as like, you're sitting there and you want to listen to a film score. What's that film score that you're going to listen to?
My first choice is always Pirates of the Caribbean. Probably the first one, just because that's another one that I watched a lot growing up. The first three, I think I'll go to bat for all three of those, especially because of the score. I think that's kind of what elevates it to being as great as it is, in my opinion. Obviously there's like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars scores that I love, but Pirates of the Caribbean, I think every track on their scores is a hit. Like they don't miss with any of them. And they're just, I could throw it on at any time.
It's so funny because I remember the last two times I watched Gladiator and like the Battle of Carthage, and they're in the chariots, and it's like the score starts going like dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
I'm like, Hans Zimmer, you son of a bitch.
I think he just was, they were probably like, the movie releases in a week. What do you got? And you're like, oh crap. And he just like wrote the same exact music for Pirates of the Caribbean.
And in the same essay that you wrote, except changed some of the wording.
Yeah, exactly.
But the scores in the Pirates movies are killer. And there's two tracks from Dead Man's Chest that I listen to all the time. One, the Kraken, which there's very few scores that are as bombastic as that piece of music, but boy, does that get me pumped.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because it's like death and desolation going on in the actual movie. Because like that Kraken messes their day up. And then Davy Jones's score with the organ and everything.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so beautiful. But like the just general Pirates theme is so iconic and so much fun. That's the thing about the first one is that movie's so much fun. Even the villains, like Jeffrey Rush looks like he's having more fun than anybody. And because Barbossa's great. And
Oh yeah.
oh, I remember seeing Dead Man's Chest and him popping up at the end of the movie. I'm like, what? And it's funny because I just rewatched like a month or two ago at World's End.
Mm.
And yes, is that movie bloated? 100%. My God, how much stuff they tried to cram into that one movie. Does the movie get a little too serious and kind of lose a little bit of its fun at times? Yes. But boy, do I enjoy spending 3 hours with these characters. And also, I want to know what mushrooms Gore Verbinski was on when he imagined the Davy Jones locker sequence. Because I'm like, what?
Apparently the story goes for those second two, since they shot them at the same time.
Yeah.
That like they were so just out in the middle of nowhere making these, I guess. And the studio wasn't really able to keep tabs on them. So they just were like throwing everything at the wall and be like, this would be cool. This looks fun. And they just did it all. And there was nothing to hold them back.
Well, and that's the thing. Sometimes when like a really creative person sometimes needs people to be like, I love you, but like, maybe not that. Like, reel it in a little bit. And like, you see that with like, I think that's what happened with the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars, to be perfectly honest. I'm like, I think George Lucas needed somebody to be like, maybe not exactly that.
Yeah.
Great ideas, maybe not something like that. And maybe Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's like, went a little too far.
Right.
Didn't need to see a bunch of CGI monkeys swinging in trees with Shia LaBeouf. Or Indiana Jones getting nuked in a fridge. Like, but anyway. But like, At World's End was the most expensive film ever made at that point. Because you know what's really expensive? Shooting on water.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are actually shot on water. And that's what's so impressive about those films and why they're so engrossing. It's like, it's real.
Yeah.
A lot of it. Obviously, in actuality, all of the Flying Dutchman is just a bunch of people in gray suits.
Actually, when James Cameron was diving down and exploring the Titanic, he found the real Davy Jones and cast him for... No, I'm joking.
I honestly thought you were going to bring up the set photos of Kate Winslet in her motion capture suit under that they have of Avatar 2. Because like she looks so silly. I'm sure it'll look great in the movie, but like what I love, and like I know you have appreciation for some of his other films specifically about time, but like I love Bill Nighy.
Oh yeah.
So much. And Davy Jones is one of my favorite movie characters. He's so committed. Even watching him in his silly gray suit doing the performance is just like, he doesn't care that he looks absolutely ridiculous.
With dots all over his face. Yeah.
He's in it. Also, the CGI in those movies is absurd. Like
it stands up, it looks better than Thanos.
Davy Jones looks incredible still. And I'm just like, dang, he actually looks like a octopus face person. Yeah. Like if I actually saw him in person, I'm like, that's a real thing. I'm running away. Goodbye.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested in asking this question to people. So as somebody who loves film as much as you do, I'm sure you have some answers to this, but what is the one thing that you want movies to stop doing?
I want them to stop. I want to read it exactly how I wrote it.
Okay.
Stop sacrificing story and theme for the sake of references, intertextuality, nostalgia, and sequel baiting.
What's really interesting is because I really wondered if you were going to bring that up, especially after I saw your thoughts on Black Widow.
Yeah.
Because
That's exactly what that movie was to me.
I enjoyed it a lot. But you're not wrong in the sense that, like, it felt less like an actual send off for Scarlett Johansson, as in, like, well, we need to replace you.
Yeah, exactly.
Florence Pugh over here is fantastic. And, like, to be perfectly honest, she kind of stole the movie from ScarJo. And, like, she didn't really have a whole lot to do until, like, the very end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of like, so was this a Black Widow movie as in, like, the Black Widows? Or was
It
this
has to
really,
be.
was it, like, that's what it really turned out to be, and
Yeah.
not, like, a Natasha movie, which I think most people wanted and thought that Scarlett Johansson deserved.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and, like, I won't mention what the actual after the credit scene is, but they're really trying to build up another Disney Plus show that I don't think a ton of people were super excited about. Because, like, let's be real here. How many people are going to be like, I'm going to go see Hawkeye for Hawkeye?
Right.
I don't think a lot of people are like, I can't wait to watch this series about Jeremy Renner's character from the Avengers.
People are excited about Haley Steinfeld and Florence Pugh in there.
Yep. And especially after David Harbour's like, maybe Red Guardian wants a piece of Hawkeye too. I'm like, my God, if he shows up in the show too.
Yeah.
And which actually, you know what? And I'm interested to hear your thoughts because that Shang-Chi trailer that came out recently, I'm excited about the fact that, like, this is a whole other story that they really haven't touched upon except for butchering the Mandarin before, but that's fake. This is real Mandarin. It kind of upset me that the only thing people were talking about after that trailer was that Abomination showed up in the last 2 seconds of it.
Right.
And I'm like,
Because you have to get something to get people talking, or else people aren't interested. And that's my problem with it overall, and why I wrote in my Black Widow review. It's just not really for me anymore, because they're not really interested in making just a movie and telling a story and exploring ideas as much as they are saying, right, here's what happens in this one, but get ready for the next one. And I don't care as much about the next one because I want to be taken somewhere now, and I want to hear someone's perspective on something now. And that just doesn't really happen.
it, because, like, I want people to be excited about the Shang-Chi film because of Shang-Chi, not because of Tim Roth's character from The Incredible Hulk showing up 13
Exactly.
years later. And I'm just like, yeah, the Abomination's going to be cool for, like, the 2 minutes he's going to be on screen. I bet you.
Right.
And, like, I think that was the same like, I saw a ton of people complaining about the Eternals trailer, and I'm like, I think it's because it didn't really connect to anything else. I'm like, who cares? It looks beautiful.
Right.
And
Eternals is one I'm actually excited for, because after seeing Nomadland, I'm just like, all right, let's see what the heck Chloe Zhao can do with Marvel and all these actors.
yes, I'm excited about that too. It just makes me laugh, honestly, with how upset people are that there's no Spider-Man trailer yet. Because I'm like, no matter how cool it would be to see all of those actors back, I don't want this movie to just be one giant cluster cuss of nothing just for the sake of, and honestly, I was not excited about the multiverse.
Yeah,
Because
it's
I'm
just a
like,
lot.
it's just going to be you know how hard that's going to be to make work? And, like, watching Loki, I'm not going to give anything away, people, because I know the finale comes out tomorrow as we're recording this, is like, I thought it was fun what they did with all the crazy Loki variants in the last episode. And they honestly spent more time using those variants to help build Loki as a character in interesting ways. I'm like, not most things don't do that though. And like, am I excited because Michael Keaton might be coming back as Batman? That's cool. But what the hell is this Flash movie going to be about?
Yeah.
And it's just like,
it's about putting recognizable things and people in.
Like, is Michael Keaton going to help build a better Flash story? And to be perfectly honest, I'm not excited about like any DC movies anymore at this point. And
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like, I know I'll have fun watching the next Aquaman movie because that first Aquaman movie was big dumb fun and just silly, to be perfectly honest. Which, to be honest, Aquaman is silly, which is why he's been the butt of everybody's jokes for like decades. Jason Momoa is cool though.
That's why they got him, I'm sure.
He's cool Aquaman. His movie's still silly though. Yeah. I don't know. And I've had this conversation on one of my previous episodes with my friend Paige. I love Taika Waititi. Love him so much. Watching Wellington Paranormal that just came out in America, hilarious, which is like a spinoff of What We Do in the Shadows. I love Thor Ragnarok, and I'm going to be down for Love and Thunder. But does this mean that I don't get any more Jojo Rabbits or Hunt for the Wilder People anymore?
Right.
And that's a tough trade-off. And sometimes I just want to see them do some original things because that's what they did so well. Like What We Do in the Shadows was made for like probably $20.
Right.
Just in somebody's flat in New Zealand. But
and it's great. I love it. Yeah, actually, I'll have like part 2 and 3 to my biggest problem or whatever the question was. The things I wish movies would stop doing.
Okay.
Part 2 is what you just said. Just like Taika and Jon Favreau, like, are we going to get another Swingers or something like that because of what they do?
Yeah, I don't think Jon Favreau's ever going back.
Yeah, and that's too bad to me.
He's the king of Star Wars now. Like,
right.
And to be perfectly honest, I'd rather have him doing that than what happened with the movies. But I know you have some different feelings about the second season of Mandalorian, which, to be fair, was exactly what you were complaining about. Like, let's see how many characters we could throw in here in spin-off shows.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Mandalorian season 2 was one big Star Wars trailer to me. But my second thing is I wish people would stop caring about leaks and set photos and spoilers ahead of time too. Because that's what, like, we know all the secrets of the Spider-Man movie already. And like people getting pictures of Pattinson on the Batman set and all that. It's like, I don't want to see a crappy phone photo from 50 yards away and just like random leaks and Alfred Molina saying too much to some reporter. I just want to see like, holy crap, Doc Ock is in this. And just like, what? They got Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire back? Instead of all of a sudden like getting it all a little bit at a time and then having nothing special come out of the movie itself.
Well, and that's one thing I hate about Sony is they really started a trend with Amazing Spider-Man 2 of literally giving away everything. Like, they gave away everything from that movie in trailers or footage beforehand. And that was just them. That wasn't even the people leaking things.
Right.
And like when all of those set photos started coming out of Thor Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
And made me so happy when Taika Waititi got photographed flipping them all off. Because like they've gone too far. They were even taking photos of him, his significant other, and Tessa Thompson having some private time at his own home. Leave them alone. If they're into that, leave them alone. We don't that's none of our business. But of course, they make a ton of money doing that crap, so that's why they do it. Like, there's a weird cameo in Thor Love and Thunder that I got ruined for me.
Oh, don't tell me. I haven't heard.
No. So, and Like, it's like the equivalent of like if somebody took a picture of Matt Damon dressed as Loki
Right.
beforehand and then that got leaked. And it's just like, I was like, when Sam Neill showed up and Matt Damon and Luke Hemsworth showed up in Ragnarok, I'm just like, wait, what?
Hmm.
That was great. And that stuff happens way too much. And like, that's true. Like, I don't need to see an out of context Robert Pattinson in the bat suit picture from London randomly. But like,
Right.
that got all over the internet. All over the internet. And Tom Holland, Mark Ruffalo, and Alfred Molina need to go vacation somewhere away from anyone. Just like, don't say a thing
Yep.
because they all ruin things. So many things. I thought that was hilarious that they started putting Tom Holland with Benedict Cumberbatch for junkets.
Yeah.
Because,
Make sure he
like,
didn't say anything.
yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the internet has so many cool things, but it's taken the mystique away from a lot of cinema.
Yes.
And that sucks.
Yeah.
And
People just want to point and say, look, there it is, instead of sitting there and saying, wow, I didn't know this was coming. And it's a big difference to me, but yeah.
well, and I think trailers have helped ruin a lot of things too, because like
Hmm.
I remember when that Batman v Superman trailer came out and the cave troll from The Hobbit was at the end of the trailer, and I'm like, I didn't need to know Doomsday was in this movie.
Right.
Like, you didn't need to tell me that.
Do we need 6 trailers for every movie? Why can't we just stick with one and then go see it when it comes out?
Well, and to be perfect, and that's the thing too, because marketing,
Hmm.
focus groups, and cinephiles like us, people who love
Right.
breathe movies, don't need to know that much to be sold on something. But apparently, according to marketing, your general audiences need to know, like, people apparently don't like to be surprised by things.
I don't get it.
And I'm like, I want things to subvert my expectations.
Hmm.
Like, I love The Last Jedi because I'm like, I didn't see this coming. And like, Rian Johnson's a great creative director and writer, and I'm a huge fan of his works. And it's just like, Knives Out was such a wonderful thing. And now I'm excited for Knives Out too. But is this going to turn into just like a big, obnoxious Netflix money grabbing thing now?
Right.
They're certainly getting paid.
Oh,
Daniel
yeah.
Craig and Rian Johnson $100 million a piece. Like, Daniel Craig was getting that for Bond because apparently he wanted to slit his wrists before he did another James Bond movie, apparently. Still did it, though, which I'm
Yeah.
still waiting for. Like, I want my No Time to Die. Thank you.
Well, that's been delayed a year and a half or whatever.
Oh, too long. But I think we agree on a lot of these things that it's just like, there's so many different things about and like, I have a master's in accounting. I went to college 6 years for business. I understand. It's all about money.
Yeah.
And the fan in me sad about that. But like, Disney's going to do whatever Disney's going to do to make money. And they certainly are swimming in it.
Oh, yeah.
And if they just keep making everything a commercial for another thing, then people will just consume it. And I'm sitting here like, I'm not one of those people that's going to keep consuming it because I am. So,
Well, that's the thing, is that I really feel like I'm not, because when I watch a movie, a lot of times I get something out of it, whether it's enjoyment or whether it's like something to think about, or whether, it's genuine emotion being evoked. But when I watch a lot of the Disney stuff, I just don't get any of that. So I'm just hoping people don't continue to be content to just be spoon-fed information about what the next thing is going to be and are actually challenged to think.
because like, WandaVision was different
Hmm.
and interesting. I wasn't a hugest fan of how it ended. Like I felt like it kind of turned into like a big CGI blob fest, like a lot of them turn out to be. But like it was interesting and different. Loki's weird and different. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is exactly what I was thinking it was going to be, which is more or less like a Captain America action thriller sequel, which and had something to say, even if some of it was like really on the nose, especially in the finale. I'm just like, could you found a more nuanced way of saying that? But they did.
Falcon just gives a whole speech about the entire show's theme.
Yep. To the world and to all of us. But like, I don't know. I felt like Endgame happened. I cried twice watching that. And like, I felt emotionally invested. I felt so emotionally invested in Steve Rogers and his whole arc. And at this point, it's just like, they're going to have to go back to what they used to do in terms of building up characters for us to care about them. Because otherwise, the next time they do an Endgame, it's not going to work the same way. And it's not going to be the same payoff. Because, like, to be perfectly honest, Endgame was like 2/3 character stuff. And I didn't expect that, to be perfectly honest. I'm like, this was a lot different than I expected. And makes sense that they didn't give like anything away in the trailers.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a hard movie to sell. But they already had us all bought and hook, line, and sinker anyway. But like, I don't know. It's going to be tricky. And like, they're going to do the same thing with Star Wars. They're doing the same thing with Star Wars. And I have a little anecdote that I experienced today. So I spent 2 hours at Pep Boys.
Oh, no.
It was more than an hour longer than I would have liked for an oil change. But they sell used DVDs at this Pep Boys. And I'm like standing in line looking. And there's like Romeo and Juliet. And right next to it is Annihilation for $5. And I'm like, that makes me really sad. That something so bold, original, and just cerebral and thought-provoking and terrifying. That movie freaked the hell out of me. That was my #1 film of the year it came out. And look at it.
Just relegated to the Pep Boys $5 bin.
Yes. And it made no money here. And Alex Garland is an amazing talent.
Oh, yeah. I love
and he
Alex
hasn't
Garland.
Jumped to something bigger than Ex Machina and Annihilation or Debs. Those were all very much his things. And I want, like, that's one of the things that I love about A24 is when they keep, like, I'll keep watching Robert Eggers movies. I love both of them, The Witch and The Lighthouse. I know some people do not love both of them. But, like, there's something different and exciting. And the same thing could go to Ari Aster.
Ari Aster, yeah.
My God, Midsummer. What an experience. But I'm going to be lined up for all of them that he made. And it's that kind of thing. And I feel like people need to support those films more, especially like people like us who are like, I watch everything and anything. And that doesn't mean I'm excited to watch everything. There's a lot of things that I go into. I'm like, I really don't want to watch this, but here we go. Maybe it'll surprise me. But in the end, it's kind of where we're at in terms of film. And there's a lot of things that I think a lot of us could think of that we just want movies to stop doing.
Yep.
But
for sure.
I appreciate you coming on, Robert, and
I appreciate being on.
But I'm going to give you one last chance to shamelessly plug whatever you'd like to shamelessly plug.
Yeah, we'll just say my YouTube channel again, Robert's Thoughts, and Twitter _Rob's Thoughts.
There we go. Robert, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.